everybody, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. I am back once again today to, of course, continue our little mini series of previewing the offseason from a non biased perspective for the Bills' biggest AFC and AFC East rivals. We started it last week, a week or so ago, with the Kansas City Chiefs. Then we started the AFC East division rivals with the Miami Dolphins. Now we are on to the New York Jets. And of course, we will finish off at the end of the week, either depending on when you're seeing this tomorrow or the next day. Keep your eyes peeled for the New England Patriots. So without further ado, as always, let's just jump right in. Here is officially my non-biased New York Jets 2025 off-season preview when free agency kicks off in a week or so, and then we'll get into a 7-round mock draft, of course. So, what cap space are the New York Jets working with? They've got money to spend here, folks. They've got actual money. 54. The New York Jets heading into free agency in a week or so when that opens, and the new league year opens officially, they will have $52.4 million in free agent funds, or cap space, if you will, to spend. I repeat, $52.4 million. That's legit cash to burn, if you will. The Kansas City Chiefs barely had any cap space. The Miami Dolphins barely had any cap space. The New York Jets are, though, this is the first, quote unquote, rival that will actually have money to spend in cap space. And other than one specific hole on the roster, this roster is pretty built up. I like their weapons. I like their developing offensive line. Yeah, they can improve in some areas on defense, but bringing in Aaron Glenn, a defensive-minded coach who runs a ton of man coverage, very suited for the New York market, who will instill fear in offenses, in my opinion. So, once again, lastly, $52.5 million in cap space. We'll go over internal free agents and how they can attack that. But let me lay out potential cap-cutting moves for the New York Jets. If you didn't hear, which you must live under a rock if you didn't hear, but if for some reason you did or did not hear, the New York Jets cut wide receiver Devontae Adams the other day, which cleared $30 million in cap space. I'm not sure of the dead cap ramifications. I'm sorry. I should have had that ready to provide for you guys today as a informed podcaster, but for some reason I unfortunately don't. Sorry about that. But $30 million cleared, and I know the other day, 3 or 4 days ago, they said, listen, Devontae, we're going to let you seek a trade. We're going to give you and your agent permission to talk to other teams. And I said on Twitter at the time, no one's going to trade for that contract because a trade would have came with a $36 million cap hit. Sure, the Jets could have paid a portion or half or a little more of that, probably around half, give or take. But even with that, no team, half of 36 was 18. $18 million for Devontae Adams is still a lot to pay. So no team is going to trade for him, so they just said, let's cut our losses, if you will, now. And a day or two later, boom, he's cut. In another, Aaron Rodgers' best friend here, cutting wide receiver Allen Lazard for a cap-clearing move would clear $6 million in cap space. That's a good chunk, pretty decent, good chunk of money for a wide receiver that, is a wide receiver 4 or 5 at best. I don't think very high level at all. It's funny how when you move on from Aaron Rodgers and bring in Aaron Glenn and new GM Darren Moogie and new offensive coordinator, literally knew everything, and a new quarterback, it's funny how the Aaron Rodgers Breakfast Club kind of gets shafted here, if you will. No more Devontae Adams, no more Allen Lazard. They gave Allen Lazard permission to seek a trade, but no one's trading for that, for lack of a better term. Bum. So, I mean, come on, man. So, funny how the Aaron Rodgers best friend, little cute Breakfast Club kind of all disappears and filters out when there's no more Aaron Rodgers and then Devontae Adams and now Allen Lazard. No one in the right mind is trading for that. I don't care if it's a cheap contract or not. They're going to have to cut it. Let me lay out this. Here are my top 5 needs from an outside, non-biased perspective for the New York Jets heading into the offseason, heading into free agency in a week or so when the new league year kicks off in exactly 1 week from today at the time of this recording. 1, QB. It all starts and finishes with the QB because, like I said, I think this roster is pretty built up. Sure, are there some holes here and there? There's no glaring holes, but I think you could make some improvements on the defense is pretty built up as is. But offense, I think there's some holes here and there, but there's nothing glaring. The QB options, This is what I would do. I would keep Tyrod Taylor. He's under contract for 1 more year. I'm assuming he'll play 1, maybe 2 years and then retire. And then if I were the New York Jets, I think this is a perfect fit. I still believe in Justin Fields as a young, really athletic, strong-armed, high-tools QB. I'd bring in Justin Fields and have a QB competition. Now, if Justin Fields can't beat up Tyrod Taylor in a quote-unquote competition, he doesn't deserve a starting job or really high-end backup job in the NFL ever again. Like, you got to beat up Tyrod Taylor. But my QB situation, I obviously move on from Aaron Rodgers. They already did that. So I would keep Tyrod Taylor around and sign Justin Fields to a somewhat lucrative contract. That's just my opinion. So number 1 need is QB, and that's how I attack it personally. Number 2 need, wide receiver. Like I said, they moved on from Devontae Adams. No one's trading for Allen Lazard, so they're going to cut him and save the $6 million. Literally cut ties figuratively and literally. I think I said literally twice. But anyway, there's no wide receivers on this roster except Garrett Wilson. Like, Xavier Gibson's really just a kick return at heart and a scheme touch guy here and there. Like, what else do you have outside of Garrett Wilson? Let's assume Allen Lazard is cut and then no more Devontae Adams, obviously. So you have Garrett Wilson, Xavier Gibson. I just explained my thoughts on him. Irvin Charles, okay. So you're going to have to load up in the draft, load up in free agency on wide receiver. And I don't think people are talking about that enough outside of Garrett Wilson. Number 3 needs safety. I know they're going to be in on guys like Javon Holland and Justin Reed from the Javon Holland from the Dolphins and Justin Reed from the Chiefs, respectively. Aaron Glenn really values that secondary. He loves to run a ton of man coverage, so he really puts a lot in his corners and safeties and man up in the middle and back end, if you will. Like, Tony Adams and Chuck Clark is such an unserious duo. Like, it's time to improve. You should absolutely be in on guys like Javon Holland, in on guys like Justin Reed. So there's that. And number 4, like the Chuck Clark, Ashton Davis, Tony Adams trio has really run its course, in my opinion. 4, corner. There's a big name corner that I'll talk about once spoiled now. I think you guys can know where I'm getting at here. Wink, wink. I don't know how to wink. Wink, wink. But yeah, it's Sauce Gardner, and then who else? Like Brennan Eccles and Isaiah Oliver in the slot. Like, corner is a very sneaky need for this team. And then 5, defensive tackle. Like, I don't know what they were thinking last offseason. Quinnen Williams, absolute beast. $23 million a year per season defensive tackle, I think. Right behind Dexter Lawrence at 25 per APY. So, yeah, that's how they look at that. But, like, last offseason, they signed Javon Kinlaw, Lucky Fotu, re-signed Solomon Thomas. If you want to bring back Solomon Thomas on a cheap veteran deal, that's fine. But, like, I don't know how they thought that was a serious commitment in Kinlaw and Fotu, respectively. Like, Javon Kinlaw and Lucky Fotu can be gone. Like, that's such an unserious, quote-unquote, duo next to Quinnen Williams. So outside of Quinnen Williams, they really got to beef up this line, literally and figuratively. And then some honorable mentions. Maybe edge, maybe tight end. But once again, here are my top 5 needs. Quarterback, 1. Then wide receiver, then safety, then corner, and defensive tackle. Then honorable mentions, I'll throw out, lineman or 2, maybe edge rusher, maybe a high-end tight end for once, because I think the Tyler Conklin, quote-unquote, experiment has kind of not failed, but run its course, if you will, for the past 2 or 3 years. So, yeah. Internal free agents of 2025. So, they only have, 22 total unrestricted free agents and then 6 total restricted free agents. So we're going to go through these, relatively quickly here today. I won't rush through them, but there's only, 2 or maybe 3 or 4 guys that they really, struggle with bringing back. No, it says order here, just how it's listed on Spot Check, which, as always, I'll link that in the description below whenever I'm talking about free agency, contracts, off-season previews, and such. Stuff like that. They're awesome. Number 1, defensive end Hassan Reddick. He is 30 years old, so you got to be mindful of that. His previous AAV on his last contract was $15 million per season. I think that's what he's worth. 14, 15, 16 million max. And he wants a bunch more than that. He's talking like he wants $18, $19 million a year. This past season with the Jets in New York and the media and all that, it was really weird. He demanded a new contract from the Eagles. They wouldn't give him that new contract. They traded him for a measly 2020 2027, I believe, third round pick. So they really wanted to wash their hands with him, if you will. And then he goes to the Jets. He doesn't talk to Robert Saleh for months. Then he holds out. And then halfway through the season, he's magically back, but he's not the same. It's just weird. Maybe he would want to return because the guys that he kind of severed relationships with and cut ties with relationships in New York with the Jets are gone. No more Robert Saleh head coach. No more Joe Douglas, who wouldn't give him what he, quote unquote, thought he was worth at GM. No more Jeff Ulbrich at defensive coordinator. You have Aaron Glenn, Darren Muge, and who's their defensive coordinator? I probably should have looked into this. I have absolutely no idea. It doesn't matter. My point is, all the people that Hassan Reddick had problems with, quote unquote, are gone. So I could see him returning the Jets and making it work with Aaron Glenn, but I think he wants to get out of the New York market. So yes, his Spot salary projection is $11.7 million per year. That is so conservative and low, like I love Spot. But if he demanding more than the $15 million contract he was on last time with the Eagles and Jets, respectively, there's no way in all heck he's like gonna take this. So my prediction is he goes somewhere else. Again, I could see it working out with Aaron Glenn because all the guys he quote unquote had issues with and severed ties with and whatnot and cut ties with, if you will, they're gone. But yeah, I think he just wants to get out of the New York market. So my official prediction is Hassan Reddick goes somewhere else at 30 years old. Next, this is a huge one. Corner DJ Reed. This is the guy I was alluding to that my number 4 need. Yeah, number 4 need of the top 5 for the Jets heading into the offseason, free agency in a week or so, draft, whatnot, all encompassing, if you will, was corner. And I said the guy I alluded to and foreshadowed to is DJ Reed. I don't think he'll be back. Just a few minutes ago, I don't think he'll be back. He's 28 years old. His previous AAV was $11 million per season, and his Spot salary projection is $14.7 million a year. Now, I think he's absolutely worth that, 14 or 15. But the Jets are going to play hardball, and are they going to give him that? No, because they have to give a big lucrative extension to Sauce Gardner. I will admit that Sauce Gardner had a pretty, not just bad year. Jets fans across the country, I feel like in the New York market, especially New York City, New Jersey, wherever they are, they will admit that Sauce Gardner had a really terrible down year. Like some say terrible, and I kind of agree. So is DJ Reed worth the 14 or 15 per year? Yes, but getting back to Sauce Gardner, they're going to give him a big lucrative extension of 18, 19, pushing 20 million. Like Jalen Johnson, the Bears makes 19 per APY. So I think Sauce Gardner went 20, 21. I don't think he's anywhere near the Pat Surtain 22, but 20 or 21 pushing that. So they're going to have to lock up Sauce Gardner for the long-term future, and he's the franchise cornerstone there. So because of that, because of the money they're going to sink into Sauce Gardner, if you will, I think DJ Reed leaves. So my official prediction is go somewhere else. Hence the big sneaky need at corner. Next, Tyler Conklin, tight end. He first of all, surface level is 30 years old. His previous AAV was 6.75. That's a lot of money for a tight end that hasn't really produced over the last couple of years. I alluded to this a few minutes ago when we were talking about the needs, and my number 3 need was a tight end. It's a sneaky need if they re-sign Conklin, but my prediction is they don't re-sign Conklin, it becomes an even bigger need. They were reportedly in on Brock Bowers last year. They were reportedly in on Michael Mayer 2 years ago. Michael Mayer's on the trade market now. You could probably get him for a 5th, 6th round pick at most. The Raiders aren't going to get more than a 5th round pick for him. So sign Michael Mayer, maybe draft someone like Tyler Warren, 7th overall. I just think personally they can Tyler Conklin's middle of the pack, somewhere 15th to 20th best tight end in the league. That's how I look at it. Perfectly mediocre middle of the pack, maybe above average play here and there. Really good blocker. Oops, I forgot to mute this. Sorry, I usually mute my laptop computer thing so you don't hear text. That was really loud. Anyway, I was saying, you can upgrade over Tyler Conklin. I think the Tyler Conklin, quote-unquote, experiment ride, whatever you want to call it, over the last 2 or 3 years, has run its course. I think it's run stale, if you will. So his previous AV, $6.75 million. That's not terrible, but that's a $2 or $3 million too much in my opinion. If someone wants to sign Tyler Conklin 1 year, $4 million, 1 year, $5 million, fine, but I don't think that would be the Jets. Spot salary projection, $9 million a year. That's top 10 highest paid tight end in the league. That's not APY in terms of APY terms. That's not going to happen. My prediction, he goes somewhere else. I think this has run its course with an older, aging veteran that gives you mediocre, average to slightly average production here and there at times. He's going to be relatively cheap, but I wouldn't bring him back. I think that's run its course. So go somewhere else for Tyler Conklin. Next, Tyron Smith, left tackle. I just don't know what the Jets were expecting. On the Cowboys for all those years, literally constantly hurt. When he's on the field, he's very good. He's a potential Hall of Famer, but like, when is he ever on the field? And he only plays specifically left tackle. He's 34 years old. Previous AV, 6.5 million a year. Spellcheck sales projection of 7.5 million a year. If he's always injured, I don't know how he gets more than his previous 1-year contract. My prediction is he retires. Like, I don't think this even crosses the Jets' mind. Like, does he go back to the Cowboys? No. It's clearly they want to get younger and cheaper. Does he go back to the Jets? No. They want to get younger and cheaper, and they just want better play. I just think Tyron Smith has had enough of the injuries and he retires personally. So, yeah. Next, Morgan Moses, right tackle. He's injured often enough too, but not to the extreme of a Tyron Smith. So, same exact age though, 34 years old. Previous AAV of $5 million. Spellcheck salary projection, $2 million a year. That's an extreme steal. 1 year, $2 million. 1 year, $3 million ballpark. My prediction is he does resign. I'm not eager to resign Morgan Moses, but I know you drafted Olu Fashanu last year, but he's kind of a left tackle only player. So you can have a quote unquote bridge and maybe a little foreshadowing. My 7th-round mock draft has a draft pick, if you will, kind of learn behind Morgan Moses. So you have Morgan Moses at right tackle, and then developing young stud, hopefully behind him in the early rounds, or right tackle, excuse me. And that left tackle, you have Olu Fashanu kind of usher in that new era. And then your middle three is perfect with left guard, John Simpson, center Joe Tippmann, right guard Elijah Vera Tucker. So that is my opinion. Resign Morgan Moses, way more eager than Tyron Smith, who I think retires. Next, Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, 27 years old. Previous AV, $3.9 million. Here's the spot check salary projection. NA, they don't have it. Yeah, $3 or $4 million. I know that's a really cheap contract relative to the defensive tackle market, but like, I don't care if it's cheap or not. I cannot believe the Jets really thought signing Javon Kinlaw and Lecky Fotu was actually going to do something. The run defense was terrible all year. Their pass rush from the interior was terrible all year. Outside Quinn Williams, this is run stale. The 1 year went horribly with Javon Kinlaw and Lecky Fotu. So my prediction is Javon Kinlaw goes somewhere else. Like, you need a drastic upgrade, significant upgrade there. Solomon Thomas, defensive lineman. I say defensive lineman because he can line up on the interior. He can line up in the A gap. He can line up in the B gap. 1 tech, 3 tech. True pass rusher, handling the dirt defensive end / outside linebacker. The Jets use him all over the place, as he should. They should, excuse me. He's a very versatile player. He's 30 years old. Previous AV of $3 million. Patrick Sabich NA. Because of his versatility, Aaron Glenn loves to have one or two of those guys every year. He's a free agent this offseason, so maybe he goes to the Jets, and I'm referring to Levi Onwuzurike. That's another guy that gives you interior / edge flex. So Aaron Glenn always loves to have 1 or 2 of these guys. So Solomon Thomas, because of that versatility, my prediction is he does resign. And if you're going to retool the edge, more specifically interior, an upgrade over Kinlaw and Fotu, respectively, you need to bring back Solomon Thomas to have at least somewhat of a carryover from the last year or two. Ashton Davis, safety, 28 years old. Now, previous AV, $2.7 million. Spellcheck celebration NA. Now, listen. I said earlier that the trio of... looking at my keyboard for a second. I said earlier that the trio of Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark, and Tony Adams, all 3 respectively, have run their course in New York, and they got to get significant upgrades there with Ian Javon Holland from the Dolphins, Ian Justin Reed from the Chiefs. I think Holland's definitely gone. I think Reed is probably gone, but who knows? That's more of a 70-30 situation. I think Holland's like 100% gone from the Dolphins. We talked about that in that preview, but Ashton Davis, you never want him to be your preferred starting safety, but he's a really high-end tools, high-end special teamer, and he's a really good kick and punt returner, respectively, in a pinch if you need him. For special teams purposes, I do predict that Ashton Davis resigns. He's been a staple in their special teams unit, which their special teams unit has been kind of a mess. Not to the drastic level of Miami Dolphins levels of terrible, but yeah. Ashton Davis, welcome back. Wes Schweitzer, just a reserve guard. he flips between active and inactive on game day. 31 years old, previous AAV of 2.5 million. Patrick Sale projection NA. My prediction is he does resign. While I do have their offensive line is really young. I mean, their starting offensive line is projected in 2024. Left tackle, Olufashanu, second year in the league. Left guard, John Simpson, fifth or sixth year in the league. Center, Joe Tippmann, third year in the league. Right guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, fourth year in the league. And then right tackle, Morgan Moses is the 34-year-old. It's like his 12th year, 13th year in the league, I believe. So, really young. And then your reserves. You want to have some continuity in terms of veteran, experience reserve. 7-round mock draft, once again, no spoilers, but I will foreshadow and tease, if you will, that they do. I do have them drafting a young O-lineman to his key reserves, but you can't rely on all young O-linemen, especially as reserves. So Wes Schweitzer is a 31-year-old veteran guard. He'll be back. Lucky Fotu, defensive tackle, 27 years old, previous AAV 2.5 million. Patrick Sailor projection NA. My prediction he goes somewhere else. Like he should. I keep hammering this home, but I cannot believe the New York Jets. Well, that's probably why Joe Douglas is gone. But I can't believe that he signed both Javon Kinlaw and Lucky Fotu and was okay with that. Like, that's so unserious. So, for the defensive interior, Solomon Thomas is back for his versatility, but both Lucky Fotu and Javon Kinlaw can get the heck out of here. Like, it shouldn't even cross Darren Moogie's mind. So, Isaiah Oliver, corner, 28 years old. Previous AAV of 2.5 million. Patrick Sale, NA. When he was cut by the 49ers on right before cutdown day, give or take around there last summer, August of 2024, I was really excited whoever would pick him up. And the Jets picked him up and said, oh, yeah, this is going to be their starting slot corner. And it was more of Michael Carter and Brandon Echols. Isaiah Oliver's only a special teams guy. And I think he wants to go somewhere else to be pushed to be a starting slot corner again. But as we know, he has versatility. He can play slot corner, outside corner, safety. It's pretty decent enough in the right scheme in all three of those. And Aaron Glenn isn't the guy that signed him. So new scheme, new everything. I think he goes somewhere else. Next, Chuck Clark, safety, 30 years old, previous AAV of 2 million. Patrick Saber, NA. My prediction is he does go somewhere else. The Tony Adams, Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark starting trio or starting duo, and then Ashton Davis come in here and there for special team snaps. Spot starter for injury. That's run its course, I think. But difference is Ashton Davis comes back for special teams purposes, and Chuck Clark really doesn't play lick of special teams as your third or fourth safety, preferably. You can't be having that. You got to play special teams. So go somewhere else. Next, Kenny Yeboah, tight end. This guy's always been intriguing to me as a young third developmental tight end. 26 years old, previous AAV of 1.425 million. Patrick Sale projection needs to have one, not available, NA, if you will. And my prediction is he re-signs it because a third developmental tight end, I'm kind of excited. Yes, you can still trade for Michael Mayer. Yes, you can still draft Tyler Warner 7th overall if you'd like. But you're moving on from Tyler Conklin. So, re-sign Kenny Yeboah. Young, intriguing, developmental third tight end. Next, Jalen Mills, corner/safety. This guy has bounced around a ton over the last couple of years between the Eagles, the Patriots, now the Giants, and now the freaking Jets. 31 years old. He can play corner and safety, so he's versatile there, I guess. But his previous AAV was 1.210 million, so barely scratching anything. Patrick Sale projection NA. A lot of these guys are NA, as you'll see. They don't have significant free agents at all. Prediction. I think he goes somewhere else if he doesn't retire. I think he retires or goes back to the Eagles. Or that's just my opinion. Kendall Sheffield, corner. Really high-end special teamer for them. So he's 29 years old. Previous AAV of 1.125 million. Patrick Sale projection, once again, NA. My prediction is he resigns because he can be a nice fill-in here and there, but more likely high-end special teamer. Greg Joseph, kicker. You don't need Greg Joseph back. He's 31 years old, older for a kicker. Previous AAV of 1.125 million. Patrick Sale projection NA. My prediction is he goes somewhere else. Someone's going to sign him off the street to come have a competition out, but you don't need a three-way kicker competition when you already have two guys under contract in Spencer Schrader and Greg Zuerlein, respectively. I'll give Spencer Schrader a shot, but Greg Zuerlein kind of declining, Greg Joseph kind of declining, missing kicks, so you don't need a three-way competition there. Greg Joseph goes somewhere else. Next, Malik Taylor, wide receiver. I know they like him as one or two deep threats a game. This is another former Packer, but I think this is an Aaron Rodgers' best friend that actually sticks around as opposed to Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard, who will be cut, in my opinion. 29 years old from Malik Taylor, previous AV of $1 million, so $1.5 million for a year or two. That's fine. NA on spot check in terms of projection, I think he resigns, especially in his purposes, downfield threat, especially with you want to keep that continuity in wide receiver room with Xavier Gibson, because outside of Garrett Wilson, you don't really have much at all. Moving on from Adams and Lazard, respectively. Jamin Davis, defensive linebacker. This guy's had a really weird journey. He goes to Kentucky as a linebacker. Really surprising first-round pick in 2021. To me at least. And then he's on the Commanders for 2 years, and then they cut him last August in 2024. Then he signs the Jets practice squad. Then he gets elevated a couple games here and there, and it's just been a weird journey. 26 years old. He can be linebacker mostly, but defensive end. Like it was rumored that he was trying to be a defensive end with Dan Quinn coming over to Washington with the Commanders before he was cut ties with them. Previous AV of $1 million. He doesn't have a spot check say prediction. My prediction is he does resign. I'm really intrigued. I'm really interested, and they should be too, to see how Aaron Glenn deploys Jamin Davis, and maybe he can be a hidden gem, diamond in the rough, if you will. So I'm really, intrigued by where he can line up in the Aaron Glenn system. I'd take a swing on him and resign him. Jake Hansen, guard, 28 years old, previous AAV $1 million. Patrick Sale projection $1.1 million a year. That's fine. That's really cheap. But my prediction is he goes somewhere else. We're gonna resign. The Jets are gonna resign Wes Schweitzer in my official predictions, but Jake Hansen will walk. Kenan Nwangu, running back. He's only a kick and punt returner, really. Like he doesn't really provide much at all. But he's 27 years old. Previous AAV of $1 million. Patrick Sale projection NA. Their running back room is loaded. They have Breece Hall. They have Braylon Allen. They have Isaiah Davis. They go deep with that. Really young and exciting running back room. So he goes somewhere else. No need for Kenan Nwangu. And if you need a kick and punt returner, you have Xavier Gibson. You have Ashton Davis. If you really want to draft one, maybe draft Taj Johnson. I'm not high on his receiver at all. I think he's only a kick and punt returner, but we'll see. Jamian Sherwood, linebacker. This is the only other huge one with corner DJ Reed, who we explained earlier at the start of these internal free agent breakdowns. Jamian Sherwood is 25 years old. His previous AV was $958,000, barely making a dent on anything. Patrick Sale projection of $7.2 million a year. I think he gets $8 to $10 million personally, approaching double digits. I think there's two spots where he fits perfectly. One, with the 49ers, if they don't re-sign Dre Greenlaw because Robert Saleh is there now. Or two, I think is most likely the Falcons, because that defense is just literally horrible every single year. Pass rush, coverage, whatever. The secondary is okay, maybe slightly above average, but they need linebackers in the middle, and I think Jamian Sherwood goes there to reunite with Jeff Ulbrich, because I think he's a fan of Jeff Ulbrich a little more than Robert Saleh, and I do think Robert Saleh and the 49ers as defensive coordinator, respectively, over there will want to bring back Dre. Greenlaw is a high tools player. So I think Jamian Sherwood easily goes somewhere else, specifically the Atlanta Falcons. Brandon Echols, corner. This is the guy I was talking about overtaking Isaiah Oliver's job as a starting slot corner, splitting time with Michael Carter. I think they value Brandon Echols in the slot and value special teams ability and fill-in ability for an injury or bad play here and there. 27 years old. His previous AV is $913,000. I mean, that's nothing. My prediction for Brandon Echols is he does resign. Again, they really value his special teams ability. So where I think Isaiah Oliver walks, and I think they bring back Brandon Echols and Kendall Sheffield for special teams purposes. Now, here's a 5 or 6, 5 restricted free agents that will likely be back with the Jets. Defensive tackle Bruce Hector, 30 years old. That doesn't matter. Linebacker Chaz Surratt, 28 years old. I love this guy's energy. I was a big fan. He was one of my guys a few years ago coming out of UNC, North Carolina there at Chapel Hill. Really, really impressed with his special teams and downhill and coverage ability. Wide receiver Irvin Charles, 28 years old. He's a really good punt and kick return, and he can block some kicks as well here and there. Guard Xavier Newman, 26 years old. So Xavier Newman and Wes Schweitzer are back, and Jake Hansen walks in this preview. Safety Tony Adams, 26 years old. He's an exclusive rights free agent, so he'll be back I guess if he's a starter for you, that's fine. But again, you need to be in then guys like Javon Kinlaw and Justin Reed, because the safeties, Ashton Davis and Tony Adams, they're back in this prediction, but in preview, excuse me, I should say rather. But Chuck Clark, like as a third or fourth safety who doesn't play special teams, and he's gone. Now here's my priority of free agents. If I were Darren Moogie and Darren Moogie in England, the Jets, I would bring back in 2025. One is corner DJ Reed, and two is linebacker Jamie and Sherwood. This is kind of 1A, 1B situation. And then after this, it's like whatever. 3 is defensive kind of Son Reddick. I try to make it work out. Again, maybe he wants to go back to a team that doesn't have the guys he didn't like there before, like Robert Saleh and GM Joe Douglas and who's the defense coordinator before? And defense coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Brain farted for a minute. 4, right tackle Morgan Moses, just to lead along a rookie, if you will, at right tackle. 5, defensive lineman Solomon Thomas for his versatility. If you're going to overhaul the defensive tackle room, you want to have some veteran continuity who can rush the passer from anywhere in the D line. Solomon Thomas is a pretty decent run stuffer as well. 6, tight end Tyler Conklin. I do think that has run stale, but if you want to bring him back on a cheap deal, that's fine. Just know you got to get a young tight end who's better. 7, safety Ashton Davis. Never a preferred starter, but really high in kick and punt returner, really high in special teamer, stalwart, if you will. 8, left tackle Tyron Smith. I do think he retires. 9, corner Brandon Echols. I do think they value special teams ability and injury replacement ability a lot. 10, corner Isaiah Oliver. I think he walks. I think Brandon Echols they like a lot more than Isaiah Oliver to fit the same role. 11, safety Chuck Clark. That's run its course as a third or fourth safety, preferably, that doesn't play a lick of special teams, hardly if at all, rather, then he's got to go. 12, defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw. 13, defensive tackle Leki Fotu. This is just unserious. Overhaul the interior, bring back Solomon Thomas, but get rid of and let walk, and say rather, Leki Fotu and Javon Kinlaw, respectively. 14, defensive / linebacker Jamin Davis. You could argue I should have had this higher because I'm really intrigued by what Aaron Glenn could do in terms of having him rush off the edge or as a true coverage linebacker, as a former first-round bust, kind of revitalize his career. If there's anyone that can run a heck of a defensive scheme to get him back on track, it's Aaron Glenn. Really intriguing option. 15, tight end Kenny Yeboah, someone I really like as the third developmental tight end. Now, this shouldn't behoove you, if you will, or prevent you, rather, I should say, from upgrading at tight end, trading for Michael Mayer, drafting a Tyler Warren 7th overall, maybe re-signing Tyler Conklin. I think Tyler Conklin walks and they bring back Kenny Yeboah. Personally, 16, wide receiver Malik Taylor. They really value his special teams ability. They really value his 1 or 2 deep bombs a game ability. He's kind of a really depth field stretcher. 17, guard Wes Schweitzer. I think he does resign because you don't want all your reserves and backups in the 7th-round mock draft I'm going to present to you in literally a minute or two after this here topic, being reserve young players. 19, corner / safety Jalen Mills. I think he's either back to the Eagles, who just moved on from Darius Slay and James Bradbury at corner respectively, or more likely he retires. 19, corner Kendall Sheffield. Same thing with Brandon Echols. I think Brandon Echols is a little better as like a fill-in here and there, but Kendall Sheffield, they really value his special teams ability, I feel like, and know for a fact. Sorry, my notes are kind of being weird. 20, so 19 with Kendall Sheffield. 20, running back Kene Nwangu. They don't need him. They already have a kick and punt returner Ashton Davis, or you draft Tez Johnson in the 5th or 6th round at the earliest. They already have Xavier Gibson is really high in kick and punt returner respectively, so they don't need him. And they have Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Diamond in the rough. They don't need Kenny Nwangu. 21, guard Jake Hansen, and 22, kicker Greg Joseph. You don't need a 3-way kicker competition between Greg Zuerlein, Greg Joseph, and Spencer Schrader, Schrader and Zuerlein, respectively, are under contract. Here's our 7th-round mock draft for the New York Jets. Round 1, pick 7 overall. This board really fell nicely into my lap. I considered corner Will Johnson from Michigan. I considered defensive tackle Kenneth Grant from Michigan. I considered wide receiver Ted McMillan from Arizona. I know people are low on this guy recently, but I'm taking defensive tackle Mason Graham from Michigan. I mean, a duo. This is a sprint to the podium pick, in my opinion, for the Jets. A duo of Mason Graham and Quinnen Williams. That is one hell of an interior rush and run stuffing duo. I know people are down on Mason Graham. Well, he was listed at 315 at Michigan. He weighed in the NFL Combine at 295, 20 pounds lighter, blah, blah, and they didn't test. Okay, don't care. He's still an elite blue chip talent in this draft, in my opinion. Round 2, pick 42 overall. This is an absolute steal, in my opinion. Offensive tackle Josh Connolly from Oregon. Tape-wise, he's a top 15 pick, pushing top 10, like tape-wise, but there's so many good other high-end offensive tackles that showed at the combine, like Will Campbell, Calvin Banks, Armand Membu, Josh Connolly, like, to sit behind Morgan Moses at right tackle, that would be very awesome to me. Round 3, pick 92 overall, wide receiver Jack Bash, TCU. This is a big brand guy for me. This is my guy. They need more physical toughness on their team. And you know Aaron Glenn on defense especially, but now that he's the CEO of the whole team, if you will, and the head coach, he's going to want toughness on the offense of the ball as well. Jack Bash oozes toughness, in my opinion. Contested catch, savant. Not really a downfield threat, but sneaky downfield ability. So him and Garrett Wilson, whew. And then you bring back Malik Taylor and Xavier Gibson. That's fine enough. Round 4, pick 109 overall. Tackle / guard Anthony Belton, NC State. I think if you need him to play tackle for an injury, he can do it. But more likely, if you need him to play guard, I like Elijah Vera Tucker when he's on the field. But he's had a ton of torn ACL / torn Achilles injuries in his career. He's been in the league 4 years. I think he's missed time most of 3 out of 4 seasons, if not all 3 out of 4 seasons, with a torn ACL and torn Achilles here, respectively, in years past. So Anthony Belton, really awesome value here. Round 5, pick 146 overall. Defensive end, Oluwafemi Oladejo. I think it's Oladejo. Defensive end, Oluwafemi Oladejo from UCLA. I think that really gives you a NASCAR package, a defensive end, if you will. If you lose to Son Reddick, fine, whatever. You'll still have Jermaine Johnson coming back from a torn Achilles. You still have Will McDonald, and now Oluwafemi Oladejo. Round 5, pick 167 overall. We're going to take a shot here. QB Kyle McCord, Syracuse. I think he is in contention after Cam Ward, Shore Sanders, and Jackson Dart is QB3 for my QB 4 or 5 between. There's a whole clump of Will Howard. Jalen Merrill impresses me. None. That guy's a running back. He can't throw the ball. Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel. I think that's the clump I'm looking at for quarterback 4 or 5 in between there, give or take, respectively. But Kyle McCord, I'm throwing a shot. If you have a QB room with Tyron Taylor, Justin Fields, and Kyle McCord, and then maybe Jordan Travis is a developmental practice squad guy, then that's really intriguing to me. Round 6, pick 188 overall. Defensive tackle Ty Hamilton, Ohio State. Ty Hamilton doesn't get nearly as much shine as Tyleek Williams, rightfully so, but this is an underrated player in the draft, so elite run stuffer in my opinion. Round 6, pick 209 overall. Linebacker Kobe King, Penn State. Big, physical, will knock your teeth out, knock your head off, keep your head on swivel type linebacker, and they're going to lose Jamian Sherwood. I'm 85-90% sure at this point. I should have probably take away from this mock draft. I probably should have went corner, safety, and tight end. If they're going to lose Tyler Conklin, the only thing they're going to resize is Kenny Yeboah. But if you trade for Michael Mayer, 5th or 6th round pick at most, 5th round pick more likely, then you don't need to draft one. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, guys, that was a non-biased, take off my rose-colored glasses, if you will, from a Bills perspective, non-biased 2025 offseason preview for the New York Jets. What is coming up on this podcast next? On Friday, so at the time this goes up, literally tomorrow, I had to rearrange some things late this week. Sorry about that. But on Friday, what's the date? On Friday, March 7th, I will bring you my last offseason preview of this cycle for Bills Rivals, 2025 New England Patriots offseason preview, and then boom, we are in the trenches and thick of free agency, if you will. I cannot wait for the Instant Reaction podcast, analyzing different contracts. It's going to be awesome. So anyways, guys, quick info here. You can follow me on Twitter, personally, at AWeingartner13. Instant free agent reactions for all teams in the NFL, not just Bills. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Around Slice to get those links to the Instant Reaction podcast. Next week's just going to be awesome. I can't wait. And then you can, of course, watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can enjoy it there. Wherever you listen to pods, we're on there most like 99% sure. And then lastly, please, through the free agency, through draft, through the Instant Reaction podcast, through multiple occasionally special guests here and there, I'm hoping. Please help me get to 50 subscribers. I'm on the road to the big 5-0. I know you guys can do it as loyal fans. Thank you for the support as always. We are just literally days away from free agency opening, and then the new league year officially starts 2 days later. I cannot freaking wait. I'm absolutely ecstatic. Anyways, guys, have a great day. Have a great end of your week, and I will see you. Thank you for support as always. I will see you on the next one for the Patriots offseason preview, finishing off our series before free agency. Bye.